Hiring a tutor might be the reason your child is struggling, not the reason that they are succeeding. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. You are paid for help, you want the best for your child, of course you hired a tutor. But stay with me for the next few minutes, okay? Let's unpack this together. My name is Chibuike-Ezike and I'm a mother of two. I run the children's learning community called Discovery Haven, and I write about intentional home learning on Substack. I have not had a lesson teacher for my children in over 4 years. My daughters are 9 and 7 and they make good grades. They read independently, they show up to their learning without being asked. That is not luck, and it's not because my children are exceptional. It is because of a decision I made and a belief that I had to break first. Here is that belief that most of us carry and most of us never question. If I find the right school, hire the right tutor, add enough activities, my child will eventually become focused, disciplined, and successful. And it makes complete sense, yes? We were raised this way. Success in our generation meant finding the right external support and performing well within it. It was like go to a good school, study hard, get the grades, get the job. So when our children struggle, our instinct is to add more external support. A tutor for mathematics, another one for English, an enrichment class for coding, a reading program on the weekend. And the child performs, of course, when those things are present. But take them away and the child stalls. They sit at their desk and they wait. They ask what to do next. They cannot begin without someone telling them where to start. And unfortunately, underneath all of that is this. A child who only studies when the tutor is present is not learning. They are being managed. And there's a significant difference between those two things. And most parents do not realize which one that their child is experiencing. Let me be clear. I'm not saying tutors are bad. I'm not saying external support is wrong. What I'm saying is this. When external support becomes the primary structure for a child's learning, the child never develops the internal muscles that matter most. Think about what happens in the brain when someone always has to direct your learning. The children will not develop the skill of starting. They will not be able to build the habit of persisting through difficulty. They will not be able to learn how to regulate their own attention. They will not discover what happens when they figure something out for themselves. That kind of confidence that comes only from independent achievements. Instead, what do they develop? A different kind of skill. Waiting. They are waiting for the tutor, waiting for the reminder, waiting for the school, waiting for someone to tell them what to do next. And over time, this becomes their default relationship with learning. Waiting takes over curiosity. Waiting takes over initiative. And the more a child relies on external structure, the less that they develop the ability to think, to initiate, and to learn on their own. This is not a criticism of the child, and it is certainly not a criticism of you. It is what happens when we prioritize performance over capability, i.e., when we solve for the grade instead of building the learner. So why do we have this belief? Remember that belief that I had to break? Yes. It's because most of us grew up in a system where success meant following instructions well. The child who listened to the teacher, the child who completed the homework, the child who scored highly on the exam was a successful child. This is what our parents knew and they gave it to us. And that was what worked for their generation. But not for our children's generation. We are raising children for a different world. A world that rewards people who can think independently, who can learn continuously, who can adapt, who can create, who can function, without being told what to do next. And that kind of person, that capable, self-directed, intellectually confident person is not produced by the right tutor. They are produced by the right environment at home. Which means the responsibility does not sit with the school. It sits with us. Yes. So what does the alternative look like? It does not mean firing your tutor tomorrow and hoping for the best. It does not mean adding more to your already full schedule. It does not mean becoming your child's full-time teacher. So what does it mean? It means designing how learning happens at home. Yes. Specifically, it means building a home learning environment where your child has a predictable structure, meaningful engagement, and the space to take ownership of their own learning. Now this could look like a 15 minutes morning review before school, where children go through their notes, where they choose the subject they want to do a quick drill on. It could be an exploration time in the evenings where they read, they create, they pursue whatever they are currently curious about. And it could also be a dinner time where there is a question that requires thinking, or they are the ones asking questions that you need to research together and find the answers together. None of this is complicated. None of it requires expertise. But over time, over weeks and months of consistent intentional structure, you will begin to notice the changes. They will stop waiting. They will start showing up. They will begin to take initiative in their learning because the environment has just made it natural. And that's the difference between managing a child on one hand and building one on the other. And this is available to every parent watching this right now. If you have been investing a lot in tutors and possibly extracurriculars and parenting advice, and your child is still not learning independently, know this: you have been solving the wrong problem, or you have been solving the problem the wrong way. The problem is not your child's ability. The problem is not the school. The problem is not even the tutor. The problem is the absence of a home learning architecture that builds the internal muscles that your child needs. And that is something you can build. Starting this week with 1 hour a day. I teach exactly this inside the Self-Directed Learner Blueprint program, a structured home learning program for parents of children aged 9 to 12 who are ready to stop outsourcing and start building. If this video resonated, subscribe to my channel. I post practical, relatable content about raising self-directed learners. And come find me on Substack, where we go much deeper every week. My name is Chibuike-Ezike and I am the Learning Architect. And I'll see you in the next one.